Captain Jake Morrison stepped off the shuttle and looked around the alien ship. The walls were smooth and white, with soft blue lights running along the ceiling. Everything looked clean and peaceful. He had been to many alien ships before, but the Zephyrian vessels always felt different. They were built by a race that valued order and calm above all else. "Dad, this place is huge," said Katie, his 12-year-old daughter. She walked beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. Her friend Sam Rodriguez, 11 years old, stayed close to her side. Both children wore their best clothes for this important meeting. "Remember what we talked about," Jake said quietly to the children. "Be polite and respectful. The Zephyrians are good people, but they do things differently than us." The three humans walked down a long corridor. Their footsteps made soft sounds on the metal floor. Soon, they reached a large room with a curved ceiling. Several tall, thin aliens waited for them. Their skin was pale blue, and they had large, dark eyes. They wore flowing robes in different shades of blue and silver. "Welcome aboard the Harmony's Edge," said the tallest alien. His voice was calm and musical. "I am Ambassador Kethfer of the Zephyrian Republic. We are honored to meet with representatives of humanity." Jake stepped forward and gave a small bow. "Thank you for having us, Ambassador. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the colony ship New Denver. This is my daughter Katie and her friend Sam Rodriguez. They are here as part of our cultural exchange program." Ambassador Kethfer looked at the children with curious eyes. "These are human young ones," he said, more to himself than to Jake. "They are smaller than I expected." "Children are very important to us," Jake explained. "We believe that meeting other races helps them learn about the galaxy." "An interesting custom," the ambassador replied. "Please, let us begin our discussions." The group moved to a smaller room with a round table. Jake sat across from the ambassador, while Katie and Sam sat beside their father. Other Zephyrian officials took their places around the table. They all looked very serious and formal. "We are here to discuss mining rights in the Kepler sector," Jake began. "The human colonies need access to the asteroid fields there. In return, we can offer advanced farming techniques and medical supplies." Ambassador Kethfer nodded slowly. "Yes, we have reviewed your proposal. However, there are some concerns. The Kepler sector falls within our traditional territory. According to Galactic Council law, we must protect our historical claims." Jake felt a small worry grow in his chest. "Ambassador, the asteroid fields have been unclaimed for over 50 years. Our surveys show no current Zephyrian presence there." "That may be true," said another Zephyrian official, "but our ancestors once traveled through that region. This gives us certain rights under council law." The discussion continued for 2 hours. Jake presented maps, survey data, and legal documents. The Zephyrians listened politely, but remained firm in their position. They quoted laws and procedures that Jake had never heard of. Their voices stayed calm, but their eyes showed no willingness to compromise. Katie and Sam sat quietly through most of the meeting. They watched the aliens with interest, whispering to each other occasionally. The Zephyrians seemed to barely notice them, treating them like small adults who happened to be present. "Captain Morrison," Ambassador Kethfor said finally, "I believe we have reached an impasse. Your people claim the right of discovery, while we claim the right of ancestral passage. This matter must be decided by proper legal channels." "What does that mean exactly?" Jake asked, though he was starting to get a bad feeling. According to Galactic Council Regulation 47B, all parties involved in a territorial dispute must remain in neutral custody until a formal hearing can be arranged. This ensures that no one can interfere with the legal process. Jake stood up quickly. "Wait just a minute. You want to detain us?" "Not detain," the ambassador said calmly. "Protective custody. It is standard procedure. You will be given comfortable quarters and full access to communication systems. The hearing should take only a few days to arrange. Absolutely not, Jake said, his voice getting louder. I have responsibilities to my ship and crew, and I am not leaving my daughter and her friend on an alien vessel. Ambassador Kethfer looked confused. Captain, you seem to misunderstand. The custody applies to all parties present during the dispute. This includes the small humans. Jake felt his blood run cold. You want to keep my children here? They are witnesses to our negotiations, another Zephyrian official explained. Council law requires all witnesses to remain available for testimony. They are not witnesses, Jake said, struggling to keep his voice under control. They are children. They have nothing to do with this dispute. They are present, Ambassador Kethfer said simply. Therefore, they are part of the legal proceedings. Do not worry, Captain. They will be well cared for. We are a peaceful people. Jake looked at his daughter and Sam. Both children had gone very quiet, sensing the tension in the room. Katie reached out and took Sam's hand. Ambassador, Jake said, his voice now deadly serious. I need you to listen to me very carefully. In human culture, children are sacred. They are not property, not witnesses, not legal participants. They are innocents who must be protected above all else. What you are suggesting is not just wrong. It is an act of war. The Zephyrians looked at each other with surprise. Ambassador Kethfer's large eyes blinked slowly. Captain Morrison, you are being emotional. This is simply a legal matter. Your young ones will be safe and comfortable. Once the hearing is complete, you will all be free to go. You don't understand, Jake said, his hands clenching into fists. If you detain human children, you will face consequences beyond anything you can imagine. Every human colony, every human ship, every human citizen will consider it an attack on our species itself. Captain, please calm yourself, the ambassador said. We are following proper legal procedures. The Galactic Council has approved these methods for resolving disputes peacefully. The Galactic Council has never dealt with humans before, Jake warned. They don't understand what you're about to do. But the Zephyrians had already made up their minds. Security officers entered the room. Tall, thin aliens wearing simple uniforms. They moved with the same calm grace as all their kind. Captain Morrison, please do not make this difficult, Ambassador Kethfer said. You and the small humans will be escorted to your quarters. You will have every comfort while we wait for the legal proceedings to begin. Jake looked at Katie and Sam. His daughter's eyes were wide with fear, but she was trying to be brave. Sam looked like he might cry, but was holding it back. Dad? Katie said quietly. It's going to be okay, sweetheart, Jake said, though he wasn't sure if that was true. Just stay close to me and Sam. We'll get through this. As the security officers moved closer, Jake made one last attempt. Ambassador, please reconsider. You have no idea what you're starting here. When word of this reaches human space, there will be consequences that will shake the entire galaxy. Ambassador Kethfer tilted his head slightly. Captain, you greatly overestimate the importance of this minor legal procedure. Now please, come along peacefully. The sooner we follow proper channels, the sooner this matter can be resolved. Jake had no choice but to go with them. As they walked toward their assigned quarters, he put his arms around both children. His mind was already racing, trying to figure out how to get word to his ship, to the colonies, to anyone who could help. The Zephyrians had just made the biggest mistake in their species' history. They just didn't know it yet. Lieutenant Alex Turner sat at his communication station aboard the New Denver, watching the display screens with growing worry. Captain Morrison had been gone for 3 hours now, and something felt wrong. The Zephyrian ship had gone completely. silent after the initial docking procedure. "Sir," called Ensign Bobby Hayes from the sensor station, "I'm picking up some unusual energy signatures from the alien vessel. Looks like they've activated some kind of containment field." Alex frowned. That didn't sound like a normal diplomatic meeting. He tried to contact the captain again, but got no response. The Zephyrian ship was blocking all communications. "That's it," Alex muttered. He opened an emergency channel and began recording a message. If something had gone wrong, the colonies needed to know. "This is Lieutenant Alex Turner of the colony. Ship New Denver." He spoke into the recorder. "Captain Morrison and 2 children are aboard the Zephyrian vessel Harmony's Edge. We have lost all contact, and the aliens appear to have activated containment systems. I am sending this message to all colonial authorities. Something is very wrong here." He encrypted the message and sent it on every frequency he could access. Then he sat back and waited, hoping he was wrong about his fears. The message reached Admiral Lisa Grant at Colonial Defense Force Headquarters 6 hours later. She was reviewing supply reports when her aide, Commander Rick Palmer, burst into her office. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," he said, his face pale. Lisa watched the message recording, her expression growing darker with each word. When it finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Get me everything we know about the Zephyrians," she ordered. "And find out who else was on that ship with Morrison." "Already done, ma'am," Rick said, handing her a data pad. "Captain Morrison's daughter Katie and her friend Sam Rodriguez. Both children, ages 11 and 12. Lisa's blood went cold. "Children?" "Yes, ma'am. Part of some cultural exchange program." Lisa stood up quickly. "Rick, I need you to contact the Zephyrian Council immediately. Use every diplomatic channel. We have. If they've detained human children, we need to resolve this before." She didn't finish the sentence. They both knew what would happen if word got out that aliens had taken human children, but it was already too late. The message had been sent on open channels, and human colonies monitored everything. Within hours, the news was spreading across human space like wildfire. Governor Pete Collins of New Terra was the first colonial leader to respond. He called an emergency session of his defense council and ordered his small fleet to begin preparations for departure. "I don't care what the diplomatic protocols are," he told his military advisors. "Nobody takes our children, nobody." Commander Sharon Wells received the news at her Frontier Defense Grid station. She had been dealing with pirate attacks in the outer systems, but this was different. This was personal. Sharon had 3 children of her own back on Earth. "Cancel all current operations," she ordered her staff. "Redirect all available ships toward Zephyrian space, and send a message to every human ship in the sector. Tell them what's happened." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Cargo ships, patrol vessels, even civilian transports began changing course. Every human captain who heard the news felt the same cold fury building in their chest. On the research station New Horizons, Dr. Elena Vasquez was trying desperately to contact any Zephyrian official who would listen to her. She had studied alien psychology for 15 years and knew how badly the Zephyrians had miscalculated. "You have to understand," she pleaded with a junior Zephyrian diplomat over the communication link. "Human children are not just small adults. They are sacred to us. What your people have done is not a legal matter. It's a declaration of war." The young Zephyrian named Veltar seemed confused. "Dr. Vasquez, surely you exaggerate. Ambassador Kethvar is simply following proper council procedures. The small humans are safe and comfortable." "That doesn't matter," Elena said, her voice urgent. "In human culture, taking children is the worst crime possible. It triggers responses that go beyond rational thought. Your people need to release them immediately." "I will pass along your concerns," Veltar said politely, but I am sure the ambassador knows what he is doing." Elena ended the call and immediately began trying to reach higher-ranking Zephyrian officials. But the alien bureaucracy was slow and formal. Every call had to go through proper channels, and those channels were clogged with procedures and protocols. Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian homeworld, High Counselor Vextai was reviewing reports from the Harmony's Edge with satisfaction. The legal detention had been carried out perfectly according to council regulations. The humans would have their hearing, the matter would be resolved peacefully, and the Zephyrians would demonstrate their commitment to proper legal procedures. The humans seemed quite agitated, noted his assistant, Counselor Zaxxon. Their communications are becoming increasingly hostile. Emotional species often react poorly to proper legal procedures, Vextai replied calmly. They will settle down once they understand we are following established protocols. The Galactic Council has used these methods for centuries. But, sir, their military ships are beginning to move. Our intelligence reports show unusual activity across human space. Vextai waved a thin hand dismissively, posturing. They are trying to intimidate us into breaking proper procedures. We will not be swayed by threats. The law is the law. But the movement of human ships was not just posturing. Captain Roy Bennett of the heavy cruiser Liberty was 3 days out from his home port when he received the message. He read it twice, then called his crew to general quarters. "This is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We have just received word that aliens have detained human children. All current missions are canceled. We are setting course for Zephyrian space at maximum speed." The crew's response was immediate and unified. They had all heard the stories of Earth's dark history, when humans had fought wars over the safety of their young. Those instincts had not disappeared when humanity reached the stars. Commander Ninia Lopez commanded a squadron of destroyers on patrol near the Centauri system. When she got the news, she gathered her ship captains for an emergency conference. "I know what you're all thinking," she told them over the communication link. "And you're right. This is not a diplomatic incident. This is an attack on everything we stand for as a species." Captain Steve Parker of the destroyer Vigilance spoke first. "Commander, my crew is ready to depart immediately." "What are our orders?" "Form up with every human ship you can find," Nina ordered. "We're going to remind the galaxy why nobody messes with human children." Even civilian ships were joining the growing fleet. Captain Maria Santos of the cargo hauler Iron Horse had been delivering supplies to a mining colony when she heard the news. She immediately dumped her cargo and began loading emergency supplies instead. "I've got 3 kids back home," she told her crew. "If someone took them, I'd want every human in the galaxy coming to help. We're going, and we're bringing everything we can carry." The response was the same everywhere. Human ships from across the galaxy began converging on a single point in space. Military vessels, civilian transports, even small personal craft, anything that could travel between stars was joining the fleet. Back on the Harmony's Edge, Captain Morrison sat in his assigned quarters with Katie and Sam. The room was comfortable. Enough with soft beds and plenty of food, but it was still a prison. The children were being brave, but he could see the fear in their eyes. "Dad," Katie said quietly, "are we going to be okay?" Jake pulled both children close. "I promise you, sweetheart. Your mom always said that humans look out for each other, especially our children. Right now, every human in the galaxy is working to bring us home." He hoped he was right. The Zephyrians seemed to have no idea what they had triggered. But Jake knew his people. He knew that somewhere out there, the human fleet was already forming. The question was whether the aliens would realize their mistake before it was too late. In the command center of the Harmony's Edge, Ambassador Kethfer was reviewing the latest intelligence reports with growing confusion. The number of human ships moving towards Zephyrian space was increasing every hour. The formation was unlike anything in the military databases. "Perhaps we should contact the Galactic Council," suggested his aide, Counselor Jexva. "This response seems unusually strong for a simple legal matter." "Nonsense," Kethver replied. "The humans are simply demonstrating their emotional nature. When they see that we are following proper procedures, they will calm down. The Council has handled thousands of such disputes." But deep down, a small part of him was beginning to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The sheer scale of the human response was unlike anything in galactic history. Perhaps there was something about human young ones that he didn't understand about it. It was too late to change course now, though. The legal proceedings had begun, and Zephyrian honor demanded that they follow proper channels. The humans would learn to respect galactic law, or they would face the consequences of their emotional outbursts. What Ambassador Kethver didn't realize was that he was about to learn something that would change the galaxy forever. He was about to discover what happened when someone threatened human children. The news reached Earth 72 hours after the detention began. President Helen Carter was in the middle of a routine cabinet meeting when her chief of staff, Director Paul Watson, rushed into the room with an urgent message. "Madam President, we have a code red situation in the outer colonies," he said, his voice tight with worry. "Alien forces have detained human children." The room fell silent. Every person at the table understood the implications immediately. President Carter's face went pale as she read the report. "How many children?" she asked quietly. "Two, ma'am. A 12-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy. They were part of a cultural exchange program. And the aliens responsible? The Zephyrian Republic. They claim it's a legal matter related to some territorial dispute." President Carter stood up slowly. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm declaring a state of emergency. Cancel all non-essential operations. I want every available ship moving toward the outer colonies, and get me a direct line to the Zephyrian Council." Within hours, Earth's massive defense fleet began to move. The battleship Washington, commanded by Admiral Frank Hayes, led a formation of 30 capital ships out of Earth orbit. Behind them came hundreds of smaller vessels, cruisers, destroyers, and support ships. "This is Admiral Hayes to all ships," came the announcement over the fleet communication system. "We are not going to war today. We are going to bring our children home. But if anyone tries to stop us, they will learn why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars." The response from the human colonies was beyond anything in recorded history. Ships that had been scattered across dozens of star systems were now converging on a single point in space. Military commanders who had never worked together were coordinating their forces with perfect unity. Admiral Tony Mitchell, commanding the 5th Colonial Fleet, found himself in charge of an armada that grew larger every hour. His flagship, the Battleship Constitution, was surrounded by vessels from every corner of human space. "Sir," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Kate Wilson, "we now have over 300 ships in formation, with more arriving every hour." "I've never seen anything like this." "Neither have I," Mitchell replied, looking at the massive display screen showing the human fleet. "Pass the word to all ships. We maintain formation and discipline. We're not raiders or pirates. We're the voice of humanity, and we're going to speak very clearly." The leading elements of the fleet were already crossing into Zephyrian space. Captain Ben Clark of the Battleship Constitution led a squadron of heavy cruisers, while Captain Diane Foster's carrier Yorktown provided fighter support. The ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons powered but not yet targeted. The Zephyrian Border Patrol was completely overwhelmed. Commander Kelvas, stationed at the edge of Zephyrian territory, watched his sensors with growing panic as hundreds of human ships appeared on his screens. "This is impossible," he muttered to his crew. "No species has this many ships. Our intelligence reports said the humans had maybe 50 major vessels." "Sir," called his sensor operator, "I'm counting over 400 ships now, and more are still arriving. Some of these are bigger than anything in our databases." Kelvis immediately sent an emergency message to the Zephyrian High Command. "This is Border Station 7. We are facing the largest fleet in recorded galactic history. The humans have mobilized their entire species. I repeat, their entire species is coming here." On the Zephyrian homeworld, High Counselor Vextai received the message with disbelief. He called an emergency session of the Council, summoning every military and diplomatic advisor he could find. "Surely this is an exaggeration," he said to Fleet Admiral Zarkith, the head of Zephyrian military forces. "No species would mobilize their entire fleet over a simple legal procedure." Fleet Admiral Zarkith studied the tactical reports with growing alarm. "Counselor, our intelligence was completely wrong about human military capabilities. They have 10 times more ships than we estimated, and they're all moving in perfect coordination." "But why?" Vextai asked. "We are following proper counsel. Procedures. We have done nothing wrong." "Perhaps," suggested Counselor Lixtar, "we should contact the humans directly. Ask them what they want." "We know what they want," Vextai replied. "They want us to abandon proper legal channels and simply release the detained parties. But we cannot set such a precedent. What would the Galactic Council think?" "Sir," Zarkith said carefully, "with respect, the Galactic Council has never faced a human fleet of this size. Perhaps we should consider whether following procedure is worth the risk of war." "There will be no war," Vextai said firmly. "The humans are emotional and impulsive, but they are not stupid. When they see our resolve, they will back down." But even as he spoke, more reports were coming in. The human fleet was now approaching the inner systems of Zephyrian space. They showed no signs of slowing or backing down. On the Harmony's edge, Ambassador Kethvar was receiving increasingly frantic messages from his superiors. The situation was spiraling far beyond anything he had anticipated. "Ambassador," called his aide, "High Command is asking for a full report on the detained humans. They want to know if there's something special about these particular individuals." Kethvar reviewed his notes from the original meeting. The adult male is a simple colony ship captain. The 2 small humans are just children, here for some kind of cultural exchange. There is nothing remarkable about any of them. Then why is their entire species mobilizing for war? "I don't know," Kethvar admitted. "Perhaps humans are more primitive than we thought. Perhaps they react to any challenge with violence." But deep in his mind, a troubling thought was growing. Dr. Elena Vasquez had tried to warn him about something. She had used words like sacred and declaration of war. At the time, he had dismissed her concerns as emotional nonsense. Now he was beginning to wonder if he had missed something important out in their detention quarters. Captain Narration was trying to keep Katie and Sam calm while monitoring the situation through the limited information their guards provided. The Zephyrian security officers were clearly nervous, talking in hushed tones about the approaching human fleet. "Dad," Katie whispered, "I can hear them talking. They sound scared." "They should be," Jake replied quietly. "They made a very big mistake." Sam Rodriguez, who had been very quiet since their detention began, finally spoke up. "Are people really coming to help us?" Jake put his arm around the boy. "Sam, every human ship in the galaxy is coming to help us. Your parents, Katie's mom, everyone, they're all working together to bring us home." The children nodded, finding comfort in their father figure's confidence. But Jake himself was worried. The Zephyrians seemed genuinely confused about why their actions had caused such a massive response. They apparently didn't understand what they had triggered, Across human space, the mobilization continued. Even civilians were getting involved. Captain Lucy Parker of the passenger liner Star Queen had dumped her scheduled passengers and loaded up with medical supplies instead. "If there's going to be a battle," she told her crew, "our people will need help." The mining vessel Deep Digger, commanded by Captain Carl Rivers, had abandoned its asteroid mining operation to join the fleet. Its massive industrial equipment could be converted to powerful weapons if necessary. "I've got 2 kids back on Mars," Captain Rivers told his crew. "If someone grabbed them, I'd want every human in the galaxy coming to help. This is what we do for each other." The response wasn't just military. Scientists, doctors, engineers, and teachers were all volunteering their services. Professor Ann Davis, a leading expert on alien cultures, was broadcasting educational programs to help fleet personnel understand Zephyrian psychology. "The key thing to remember," she explained to her audience, "is that Zephyrians truly believe. They are acting correctly. They follow rules and procedures above all else. They probably don't understand why we're so upset. But understanding the Zephyrian mindset didn't reduce human anger. If anything, it made things worse. The idea that aliens would take human children and then act confused about the response was infuriating to every human who heard it. Religious leaders across human space were holding special services, praying for the safe return of Katie and Sam. Reverend John Miller, speaking from the cathedral on New Earth, expressed what many humans were feeling. "Today we are reminded that some things are more important than politics or trade agreements," he said. "Our children represent our future, our hope, our very souls. Any species that would threaten them has declared war on everything we hold sacred." The message was being repeated in every human settlement. This wasn't about territorial disputes or legal procedures. This was about the fundamental right of human children to be safe and protected. On the bridge of the Constitution, Admiral Mitchell was receiving reports from across the growing fleet. Ships were still arriving from the farthest human colonies, some having traveled for days at maximum speed. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we now have over 500 ships in formation. The Zephyrians are requesting communication." "Put them through," Mitchell ordered. High Counselor Vextai appeared on the main screen, his blue features showing obvious stress. "Admiral Mitchell, I am High Counselor Vextai of the Zephyrian Republic. We need to discuss this situation before it escalates further." Cons. The human fleet reached the edge of the Zephyrian home system on the morning of the 5th day. Admiral Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Constitution, looking at a sight that no one in galactic history had ever witnessed before. Over 800 human ships stretched across space in perfect formation, from massive battleships to small scout vessels. Every ship carried the same message: "Return our children." "Sir," reported Commander Gary Lewis, his tactical officer, Zephyrian, "Defense forces are taking positions around their homeworld. I count approximately 200 ships, mostly light cruisers and patrol vessels. Any sign of reinforcements from other Zephyrian systems?" "Negative, sir. It appears their entire fleet is already here." Mitchell nodded grimly. The Zephyrians were brave, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. He hoped it wouldn't come to violence, but the choice was no longer in human hands. The aliens had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. "Open a channel to the Zephyrian High Command," he ordered. High Counselor Vextai appeared on the main screen, flanked by his military advisors. The alien leader looked exhausted, his large eyes showing stress that his species rarely displayed. "Admiral Mitchell," Vextai began, "surely we can resolve this matter through negotiation. The Galactic Council has established procedures for such disputes." "Counselor," Mitchell replied, his voice carrying the weight of 800 ships behind him, "you seem to think this is a dispute. It is not. You have committed an act of war against humanity by detaining our children. I am here with the voice of our entire species, and that voice is saying one thing: give them back. But Admiral, we cannot simply abandon legal procedures. What precedent would that set? The precedent, Mitchell said coldly, that some things are more important than your procedures. Human children are sacred to us. They are not legal subjects or diplomatic pawns. They are innocents under our protection, and you have violated that protection. Behind Vexed High, Fleet Admiral Zarkith leaned forward to speak. Admiral Mitchell, we respect your concern for your young ones, but surely you can see that this response is disproportionate. We are talking about two individuals in a territorial dispute. No, Mitchell said, his voice rising. You are talking about two human children who have been taken from their father and held against their will by alien forces. Every human being in the galaxy considers that an attack on our species itself. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian leadership to contemplate their options. They were facing the largest military force in galactic history, assembled. For the sole purpose of rescuing two children they had detained as part of what they considered a routine legal procedure. Perhaps, suggested Counselor Lickstar quietly, we should consider releasing them. The legal matter can be resolved later. Absolutely not, Vexed Eye said firmly. If we bow to threats now, we will be seen as weak by every species in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Republic does not abandon its principles under pressure. But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across Zephyrian space. Human ships were appearing everywhere, not attacking, but simply taking positions around every major Zephyrian system. It was a show of force unlike anything in recorded history. On Earth, President Carter was in constant communication with Admiral Mitchell. The entire human government had shifted into crisis mode, with every department working to support the rescue mission. Admiral, she said during their latest conversation, the entire human population is watching this situation. They want those children home, but they also want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Can you resolve this peacefully? That depends entirely on the Zephyrians, Madam President, Mitchell replied. We've made our position clear. If they release Katie and Sam, we can all go home. If they don't. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Both leaders understood that humanity had reached a point of no return. The mobilization was so massive, the emotional investment so deep, that backing down was no longer an option. Meanwhile, on the Harmony's edge, Ambassador Kethvar was struggling with doubts he had never experienced before. He had spent his entire career believing in the power of proper procedures and legal channels. But the human response had shaken that faith to its core. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving messages from human civilians. Thousands of them. They're not military communications. They're personal messages. What kind of messages? Parents, mostly, telling us about their own children, begging us to release the young ones we're holding. Some are offering to take their place. Kethvar felt something he had rarely experienced. Doubt. He asked to see some of the messages, and what he read disturbed him deeply. Human parents from across the galaxy were offering their own lives in exchange for the safety of two children they had never met. The emotional intensity was unlike anything in Zephyrian experience. One message particularly struck him. It was from a woman named Carol Murphy, a teacher on the colony world New Boston. My name is Carol Murphy, and I have a daughter the same age as Katie Morrison. I don't know these children, but they are human children, which means they are part of our family. Please understand that what you have done goes beyond politics or law. You have taken innocence, and that is something we cannot and will not accept. I am begging you, as one parent to another, to let them go home. Similar messages were flooding in from across human space. Teachers, doctors, farmers, factory workers, all united in their demand for the children's release. The scope of the response was staggering. Sir, his aide continued, I'm also receiving reports about human colonies. They've stopped all normal activities. Schools, factories, farms, everything has shut down. The entire human species is focused on this one thing. Cathver stared at the reports in disbelief. An entire species has mobilized over 2 individuals? It appears so, sir. Our cultural analysts are saying they've never seen anything like this in galactic history. For the first time since this crisis began, Cathver began to seriously question whether they had made the right choice. But before he could voice his doubts, a new communication came in from High Command. Back on the Zephyrian homeworld, the situation was becoming desperate. High Counselor Vextai had called an emergency session with every military and civilian leader he could gather. The chamber was filled with worried voices and conflicting advice. "The humans have us completely surrounded," reported Fleet Admiral Zarkith. "They're not making any aggressive moves, but their positioning is perfect. If hostilities begin, we won't last more than a few hours." "What about calling for help from the Galactic Council?" suggested Defense Minister Corval. "The Council is in emergency session," replied Foreign Minister Nelver, "but they're paralyzed. They've never seen anything like this. Some members are saying we should release the humans immediately. Others are insisting we follow proper legal procedures." "And what about other species?" Vextai asked. "Surely some of our allies will support us?" "Sir," Nelver said quietly, "we've received unofficial communications from several allied governments. They're all saying the same thing. We're on our own. No one wants to face a united human fleet over what they see as our mistake." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Zephyrian Republic, despite its careful diplomacy and adherence to galactic law, found itself completely isolated. "There is one more thing," Zarkith added reluctantly. "Our intelligence officers have been analyzing human military history. The patterns we're seeing match something they call total war, where an entire species commits all its resources to a single goal." "But that's impossible," protested Counselor Jexian. "No civilized species would risk everything over 2 individuals." "That's what we thought," Zarkith replied. "But human history is full of examples where they fought to the death over their young. They call it protecting innocence and consider it more important than their own survival." Meanwhile, throughout the human fleet, preparations were being made for every possible outcome. Captain Ben Clark, aboard the Constitution, was reviewing tactical plans with his officers, hoping they wouldn't be needed, but preparing for the worst. "Zephyrians are decent people," he told his crew. "They're not evil, just misguided. But if they force our hand, we'll do what we have to do. Those children are counting on us." On the carrier Yorktown, Captain Diane Foster was briefing her fighter pilots. "Remember, we're not here to conquer anyone. We're here to bring home 2 kids who should never have been taken in the first place. If shooting starts, make your shots count, but remember who we're fighting for." The message was the same throughout the human fleet. This wasn't about conquest or glory. It was about the most fundamental responsibility of any species, protecting their young. Dr. Alana Vasquez, now aboard Admiral Mitchell's flagship as an advisor, was making one last attempt to reach the Zephyrian leadership. She had been granted a direct communication link to High Counselor Vextai. "Counselor," she said, her voice urgent but respectful, "I understand that your people value law and order above all else. But you need to understand that human children occupy a special place in our psychology. Taking them is not just illegal. To us, it's an attack on our very essence as a species." "Dr. Vasquez," Vextai replied, "surely you can see that we meant no harm. We were following established procedures." "I believe that," Elena said, "but intent doesn't matter now." The moment of decision came at dawn on the 6th day. High Counselor Vextai stood in the main council chamber, surrounded by the most powerful leaders of the Zephyrian Republic. Outside, the human fleet waited in perfect formation. 800. Ships strong and growing larger every hour. The situation is simple, Fleet Admiral Zarkith reported with grim efficiency. Our entire military force numbers 230 ships. The humans have brought over 800 vessels, including battleships larger than anything in our databases. If hostilities begin, we will be completely destroyed within hours. But surely they won't actually attack, protested Defense Minister Corvo. The galactic community would never accept such aggression over a minor legal matter. Sir, foreign. Minister Nelver said quietly, I've been in contact with every major government in the galaxy. None of them consider this a minor legal matter. They all view it as our mistake, and they're all distancing themselves from us. Counselor Lixstar stepped forward. High Counselor, perhaps it's time to consider that we may have misunderstood something fundamental about human culture. There. Response suggests that what we did carries a significance we never comprehended. Vextai looked around the room at his advisors. For the first time in his long career, he saw doubt and fear in their eyes. The certainty that had always guided Zephyrian decisions was crumbling under the weight of human determination. What are you suggesting? He asked. That we release the humans immediately, Lixstar said, before this situation destroys both our peoples. But the legal precedent will mean nothing if our civilization is reduced to ash, Zarkith interrupted. Sir, I've studied every military conflict in galactic history. I've never seen anything like this human response. They've mobilized their entire species over two children. This isn't politics or strategy. This is something primal. At that moment, a new communication request came through. Admiral Mitchell's image appeared on the main screen, but he was not alone. Standing beside him was an elderly human with kind eyes and gentle features. High Counselor Vextai, Mitchell began, I want you to meet Ambassador Charles Newman, our most experienced diplomat. He has a message for your people. The old diplomat stepped forward, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. Counselor, I have spent 40 years building bridges between species across the galaxy. I have negotiated peace treaties, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges with dozens of alien governments. But today, I am not here as a diplomat. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today, I am here as the voice of every human parent, grandparent, teacher, and guardian in the galaxy. We are telling you something that should never need to be said. Return our children. Ambassador Newman, Vextai began, surely we can find a diplomatic solution. No, Newman said, his voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. This is not a negotiation. This is not a dispute. This is a promise. You have taken human children, and we want them back. There is no compromise on this point, no middle ground, no acceptable alternative. He stepped closer to the screen, his elderly face showing a strength that made the Zephyrian leaders step back involuntarily. You seem to think this is about legal procedures or territorial rights. Let me be very clear about what this is really about. You have committed what we consider the ultimate crime against our species. You have harmed innocents. But we have not harmed them, Vextai protested. They are safe and comfortable. You have taken them from their father, Newman said, his voice rising. You have frightened them, confused them, and made them prisoners. In human culture, that is harm beyond measure. The ambassador's voice dropped barely above a whisper, but every word carried the weight of 800 ships. High Counselor, I want you to understand something. The fleet surrounding your homeworld represents the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Ships from every human colony, every human settlement, every human outpost have come here for one purpose, to bring two children home. He paused again, letting the magnitude of that statement register. This is not about showing force or intimidating your government. This is about demonstrating a fundamental truth that apparently needs to be explained to the galaxy. You do not touch human children, ever, for any reason, under any circumstances. But surely, Counselor Jexaean interjected, your people can see that we meant no harm. We were following established legal procedures. Newman turned his attention to the counselor. Your intentions are irrelevant. Your procedures are irrelevant. Your laws are irrelevant. You took our children, and that is the only fact that matters to us. He gestured toward the viewport, where the human fleet was visible. Do you see those ships? Every captain out there has the same orders. Bring Katie Morrison and Sam Rodriguez home safely. If you cooperate, they will leave peacefully. If you resist, the threat hung in the air, unspoken but perfectly clear. Vextai looked around his council chamber one more time. His advisors avoided his eyes, the weight of the decision falling squarely on his shoulders. Outside, the human fleet waited with the patience of predators, ready to act the moment their restraint was exhausted. What guarantee do we have, he asked finally, that if we release them, your fleet will withdraw peacefully? You have the word of the human species, Newman replied. We did not come here to conquer or destroy. We came here to bring our children home, give them back, and this ends immediately. And the territorial dispute that started this situation will be resolved through proper diplomatic channels, without children being involved in any way. Vextai closed his eyes and made the hardest decision of his career. Very well. The humans will be released immediately. Within minutes, Ambassador. Kethver received new orders. He made his way to the detention quarters, where Captain Morrison waited with Katie and Sam. The alien diplomat looked older than he had just days before, the weight of his mistake evident in every movement. Captain Morrison, he said formally, by order of the High Council, you and the young ones are free to return to your ship. Jake stood up slowly, hardly daring to believe it was over. Just like that? Just like that, Kethver confirmed. We have made an error in judgment, one that nearly cost both our peoples dearly. Katie and Sam pressed close to their father as they prepared to leave. As they reached the door, Katie turned back to the ambassador. Sir, she said in her young voice, I hope your people and my people can be friends. But maybe next time you should ask before you take someone's children. Kethver stared at the child for a long moment, struck by the simple wisdom in her words. Yes, young one, perhaps we should. A transfer happened quickly and efficiently. A human shuttle arrived at the Harmony's edge, and within an hour, Captain Morrison, Katie, and Sam were safely aboard Admiral Mitchell's flagship. The moment they set foot on the human ship, word spread throughout the fleet like lightning. This is Admiral Mitchell to all ships, came the announcement. Katie Morrison and Sam Rodriguez are safe and secure. Mission accomplished. All ships, prepare for withdrawal from Zephyrian space. The celebration was immediate and overwhelming. Across the human fleet, crews cheered and embraced each other. Messages flooded back to the colonies and Earth. The children were safe. On Earth, President Carter addressed the nation and the galaxy. Today, we have demonstrated something that I hope will never need to be demonstrated again. Human children are sacred to us. They are not political pawns, not legal subjects, not bargaining chips. They are innocents under our protection, and that protection extends to every human child in the galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez found herself in an unexpected position. The Galactic Council had asked her to brief them on human psychology, specifically regarding the protection of young ones. Her presentation would become required viewing for every diplomatic mission dealing with humanity. The key point, she explained to the assembled alien representatives, is that human protective instincts regarding children are not rational or negotiable. They are biological and cultural imperatives that override all other considerations. Any species that threatens human children should expect a response that will seem disproportionate by galactic standards, but is perfectly normal by human standards. Zephyrian Republic, meanwhile, was dealing with the aftermath of their near-catastrophic mistake. High Counselor Vextai issued formal apologies and reparations to the human government. More importantly, he instituted new protocols ensuring that human children would receive special protection status throughout. Zephyrian Space Ambassador Keth4 requested a personal meeting with Captain Morrison before the human fleet departed. They met in a neutral conference room, two beings from different worlds trying to understand each other. "Captain," Kethver said, "I need to ask you something. How could we have known? How could we have understood the significance of what we were doing?" Jake looked at the alien diplomat for a long moment. "Ambassador, you could have listened when I warned you. You could have taken seriously the fact that I was begging you not to do this. But mostly, you could have remembered that children, any children from any species, deserve protection, not detention." "We will remember," Kethver promised. "What happened here will be taught to every Zephyrian diplomat and military officer. We will never make this mistake again." As TH,